This is an RNZ podcast. It was another busy week at Parliament, with the House going into urgency and plenty of argy-bargy in the debating chamber.
Why is he answering a question from someone who comes from Rarotonga?
Mr. Speaker, I take personal offence.
You're saying that if I trifle with you again that I will leave, but you won't even require someone making a racist comment to withdraw and apologise.
The member will leave the House.
But north of Wellington, in the country's city of sails, a significant decision was announced on housing intensification.
Politics is always all about compromise.
Was it a back down, a U-turn, or did the government just listen to the people? Kia ora, ko Anneke Smith aho. Anei te pūrongo tō rangapū mō tēnei wiki. Welcome to Focus on Politics. The story of housing intensification in Auckland is a long one, but in short, it goes like this. Back in 2022, National and Labour joined forces in a rare show of unity to combat the housing crisis. The law would be changing, they said, to allow up to 3 homes of up to 3 storeys to be built on most urban sites without the need for costly and frustrating resource consent. Here's Labour's Housing Minister Megan Woods announcing the Medium Density Residential Standards, or MDRS, in the Beehive Theatrette at the time.
New Zealand has a serious housing shortage and has simply not built enough homes to meet the needs of New Zealanders.
But a year later, Auckland Council was grappling with the anniversary weekend floods and decisions around where and where not to build new homes. After an election and change of government, the new National Housing Minister, Chris Bishop, said the council could pull out of the MDRS as long as it delivered the same number of homes overall, enough for at least the next 30 years of projected growth. Auckland Council proposed enabling up to 2 million homes through a new plan called Plan Change 120. It focused on greater intensification near transport hubs, specifically train stations, with the areas most affected being older, more affluent suburbs, often home to heritage houses. It was the council's solution to building more houses in Auckland, though it wasn't long before again central government got cold feet. In January this year, the Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, used his State of the Nation speech to signal a looming U-turn.
Ultimately, the feedback is saying things are going to need to change, and there will need to be some changes, and Chris will announce those in due course.
The backlash had started immediately, with a series of local meetings discussing fears over the impact of high-rise buildings on roads, old pipes and any possible drop in the value of their homes. Deputy Prime Minister David Seymour helped organise some of the meetings as ACT leader and MP for Epsom, a well-known leafy suburb in Auckland. He told 9 to Noon's Catherine Ryan he was pushing back on a Wellington-based populist approach to housing supply.
If you look at the proposition that is currently in law and that Auckland Council is currently preparing for, that is a plan with 2 million homes, and Auckland Council has proposed to do that in a way that really pushes development in towards the centre of the city. I think that what you'll see is some sort of change from the government, and when I say I think, because I can't really say what my colleagues are debating or discussing at the moment, but I think you could take from the Prime Minister's public comments that you will see a lower target for the number of dwellings and a wider spread and a greater mix of homes between central city intensification and more greenfield housing.
Some have speculated on dropping the 2 million to the 1.3 or the 1.4. Is that doing any more other than just appeasing the nervous system? Will it really change the possibility of quite tall high-rises in some of these suburbs or not?
Well, of course, it's a little bit of a disjointed debate because the Wellington central government has been trying to interfere in Auckland planning for at least 5 years, beginning with the medium density residential standard that was legislated at the end of 2021. That was rolled back. We've got new laws. Plan Change 78 is gone now, Plan Change 120. And each time you have stipulation from Wellington and then a response from the Auckland Council. Now, frankly, I've opposed these Wellington interventions all the way through because I see them as a really populist approach to what is a very serious problem of housing supply. It's useful to say, we are going to force them to zone, and it sets old against young and rich against poor and incumbents versus first home buyers. So it's good politics, and people have preyed on that. But actually, these interventions haven't led to more homes being built. When I talk to the Auckland development community, what they really want is not changes in zoned heights. They want faster connections, more efficient development charges, and basically to be able to get on with building within the envelope they already had.
That was about a month ago. This week, Housing Minister Chris Bishop confirmed that Plan Change 120 would be changing, and he laid out the details.
It's clear a lot of Aucklanders are concerned about what growth means for them. It's completely understandable. The government understands that. The kind of angst we've experienced in Auckland is not helpful for housing growth. We need people to come with us on the journey of more capacity and more growth. So the message is this: we hear you and we are acting. So today I'm announcing that Cabinet has agreed to legislate to soften the housing capacity equivalency requirement. As I say, that number is currently around 2 million. We will be legislating to lower it to 1.6 million.
The change gives the council more flexibility when it comes to choosing what areas grow, though Cabinet still wants the council to come back to it once that's decided.
On the process from here, Cabinet's asked for a summary of the provisional zoning changes the council could make once we legislate. And once we legislate the lower housing capacity number, the rest is in Auckland Council's hands.
Mr Bishop says it strikes the appropriate balance between Aucklanders' concerns about densification and those who want growth, making the case it's been 2 steps forward and only 1 step back.
Going from 2 million to at least 1.6 million reduces minimum housing capacity by around 20%, but it's in the context of a stronger plan that could see a 20% increase in planned housing turning into real housing. PC 120 is a stronger plan because of the government's and Auckland's shared objective of upzoning around key CRL stations and around a shared commitment to the National Policy Statement on Urban Development. We are not backing away from those commitments.
Auckland's Mayor Wayne Brown says Auckland Council was never worried about the number.
Well, Mr Bishop and I both want to do intensification in sensible areas around railway stations and bus routes, and where there is all the infrastructure there, and so we haven't shifted from that. I think he's having a bit of trouble with some of his colleagues, and they seem to think that we're going to do a whole lot of work and go and be checked by them, but that's not going to happen.
What about that number, that 1.6 compared to the 2 million? Is the council happy with that? Are you happy with that?
It's a number like how many clouds are going past. It never really mattered much. Well, people focus on the wrong thing here, and that was we weren't going to have 2 million houses, and it was just a concept that was beyond the thinking of most people.
Right,
but if it calms down some worried elderly residents in Epsom, then that's done its job.
Firing a warning shot, he's not interested in being told what to do.
We're not doing this in order to go to the government and the Cabinet and ask for their approval. That's not going to happen. I mean, the Cabinet mostly don't even live in Auckland, and so that's not going to happen. So
David Seymour's put out a release saying just that you should, you have to release they're asking that you release a summary of your zoning changes to them before they legislate.
Well, we'll just stick with 2 million and carry on if that's the case. I mean, I'm not sitting up here to have David Seymour tell me what to do.
The change has been welcomed by Sally Hughes from Heritage Homes Group Character Coalition.
What Chris Bishop has responded to is very genuine concerns from a wide range of Aucklanders that their quality of life was going to be really affected by this plan. It was a huge number, but it's not really the numbers that count. It's really just the impact on suburban way of life, basically. And a lot of people felt that the intensification of our suburbs to that level was going to affect their quality of life.
But on the other side of the coin, Scott Caldwell from the Coalition for More Homes is frustrated.
We're not stoked that they're lowering the housing target, obviously, but there is a political consensus now that, Auckland, particularly New Zealand generally, needs more houses, and that's with these plans are a really great mechanism for doing that. There's a lot of polling, a lot of consultation, so that Aucklanders really do want housing around the train stations, housing where jobs are, housing where shops are, And so we're really glad that the government stays committed to that. But certainly our frustration has just been the amount of back and forth that's been going on for 6 years now, really. It kind of feels like we're back where we were 3 years ago when we stepped back from the MDRS and sort of kicked off this whole process. So, what we're looking for is really like a firm commitment that this is the plan, this is what we're going forward with, and we can get it done.
A firm commitment might be a tall ask. Both ACT's David Seymour and New Zealand First's Winston Peters have expressed a desire to scale things back even further.
We've listened, the government is making changes, but we need to see what 1.6 million looks like before we vote for it. So this is good progress, but we're not there yet.
So they don't have your guaranteed support of this?
Well, the Cabinet's agreed we're going to look at what does 1.6 million look like. Because when we voted for 2 million, we hadn't seen the maps from the council. They had kept them hidden and basically released them the next day. This time, we need to see what 1.6 million looks like before we vote for it.
There had to be change, and I'm pleased that that change is happening.
Okay, so you're happy with the lower figure?
No, I think there are more improvements than that, but that's the way it is. You've got to compromise. In my view, I've talked to a lot of planners there. We could have done better, and we still can.
And doing better is a lower figure?
Yes, a lower figure, and also attuned to the actual realities of future growth, not some wild speculation as to the future.
The Labour Party has been on the attack. Its deputy leader, Carmel Sepuloni, and MP for West Auckland suburb Kelston painted the U-turn as an embarrassing backdown for Chris Bishop, though she wouldn't commit to making further changes if Labour was in the driving seat.
Absolutely, he's been put in his place by Chris Luxon on the housing stuff. I think it's embarrassing for Chris Bishop, to be honest, that he's been forced to make this U-turn. He was ambitious for Auckland. He knows how important housing is. He set that target knowingly, and because of the fact that he's very aware of the future pressures coming our way. And so, he's disappointed. What I'm mostly concerned about is obviously the disarray in government that we're seeing, but also the uncertainty that this brings, the fact that council entered into agreements and arrangements with government in good faith, and this really turns all of that on its head.
Will you rule out tinkering with that? The government's legislating over the P120 to drop that figure. Would Labour change that? Can you give people certainty that won't keep chop changing?
Well, we've only been presented with this change today, so there's still discussions to be had. Our number one consideration is going to be for Auckland and what Auckland needs. And we'll be making sure that we're in step with the people that are doing the work at council, with our council, with those that are doing the planning, and with the future demands of what Auckland needs.
So you're not ruling out changing that again?
Not ruling anything out or ruling anything in, but we do know that Auckland needs certainty, and we want to be able to provide that certainty. There needs to be integrity in the relationship between government and the council, and I feel like with this decision we've seen that undermined.
Green Party co-leader and MP for Auckland Central, Chloe Sawbrook, was also exasperated.
Frankly, I would say it's embarrassing if it just wasn't harmful. We've been having this debate for longer than I have been involved in politics. Aucklanders and New Zealanders deserve far better. I find it profoundly ironic at a point in time where just this week we've seen the Infrastructure Commission release their report, which speaks to the need for clear-eyed evidence-based criteria for development in this country, that we now have a government that's deciding to once again capitulate to those who own at the expense of everybody else.
The Infrastructure Commission dropped a mammoth report earlier this week. Having been asked to map out a pathway for a 30-year strategy for investment, its research sets out how the country could best maintain and build infrastructure in the coming decades. The Commission's CEO, Jeff Cooper, spoke to Midday Report's Guy Espiner against the backdrop of more severe weather hammering the North Island.
What we're talking about here is understanding what our assets are and how exposed they are to natural hazards. so we can prepare and secure funding to build back when these events happen. And we, just like everybody else, are looking at the sort of prevalence and risk of all of our assets and noticing that the risks are higher and increasing with each day that we go on.
It looks like we have a massive gap between what our goals and aspirations are and our ability to fund them. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks from this report like you've got about a $190 to $200 billion gap in terms of the unfunded pipeline, right? So we've got all these projects worth about $275 billion, but $190 billion or so of those are unfunded. So we're just not close to being able to do what we want to do, are we?
No, those numbers are glaring and they're hard to avoid. And I think, on top of that, really understanding what it takes to replace and renew the existing infrastructure that we have. And we should be, over the next 30 years, spending in the order of $20 billion, $20 billion every year, just renewing and replacing the stuff that's already around us. So the challenge is formidable, but the plan paints a path through this.
There are clearly some very big issues on the boil already, and it's only the very start of an election year. That was Focus on Politics. Make sure to follow us in your favourite podcast app or seek out RNZ's new Politics NZ podcast feed and subscribe there. I'm Anneke Smith. Thanks for joining us. Mā te wā.